What's up, Crown Nation? Today we are talking about when love is on hold. And maybe for some of us, it's not on hold. But for those that is, welcome to the Love Zone.
I love it. So, for those who are on hold, some of us are, but some of us are not, But let's talk to the ones where love is, when love is on hold. I think some of the reasons for some people to put love on hold is because their life, they might feel like it's just too complicated to really be bringing in something else. And I need to focus on me, or I have to focus on, a certain issue or a thing. It could be maybe you taking care of somebody, whatever it is. So let's just talk about it tonight on, when love is on hold and why is love on hold?
And welcome to Rock the Crown.
Let's get into it. You see, we ready to dive into it.
We're ready to dive into it because it's going to be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, what's up, Crown Nation? We are here, Queen Naima and Queen Nefertari, and today we are talking about when love is on hold and so many different angles to talk about it from. And so I think we want to kind of start off talking about long romantic decisions that happen in long relationships. And when making those long romantic decisions, it's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're thinking about, I think for some people, the perspective can be, number one, do you have someone to put on hold? And the other perspective could be, hey, I don't have anyone to put on hold. I just need to put it on hold because nothing's coming my way. How about that, right? And so when you start thinking about, okay, if you do have someone and you're putting them on hold, it's a big task, right? Thinking about like, okay, I really care for this person, but we just kind of need to put it on pause. And I think that some people sometimes think that when you are in a relationship, you have to put it on pause. It means that you're terminating the relationship. But really, it can mean like, hey, I'm getting myself together so that I can make this relationship last and make it withstanding over the test of time. And so, yeah,
So it's not that they're just putting it on hold for that person so that they can talk with this other one. It's just that they're trying to get themselves together. They're not ready for anybody yet,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And I think sometimes for women too, I think there's different reasons for men and women when they want to put love on hold. For men, they might be looking at themselves like, I want to have a certain statute of finances in order, certain things, so they don't feel like they have the stresses of, they want to make sure they can provide and maintain and be able to pull that household together in ways that they feel like is necessary. And of course, that woman may be there and she's helping and doing whatever too, but they always want to feel like that they can, be able to handle things. And then for women, it may be that they don't have everything lined up. You know how we have our little goals set, especially when you're young and you talk about marriage and a lot of times it's like, oh no, what about school? What about this? Or you need to be able to do this, this, and this, and get yourself in a place where you can take care of yourself. So just in case this happens or that happens. And so, there's various reasons on when love is on hold. And we definitely want to hear from you guys tonight too. Just chime in and, let us know about some of your experiences, or maybe some stories that you've heard, on when love is on hold.
Right. And some of it also, thinking about like, hey, if you're waiting for someone or whatever, you have a relationship, and just thinking about like really not trying to jeopardize that relationship, really making sure that that other person also understands. Because sometimes for women, if a man says, I want to kind of hold, women take it personally a little bit more than men would, right? And then she, oh, you don't love me. I told I'm not gonna sit back here waiting on you like that.
I'm waiting on you forever.
I'm gonna be waiting on you forever. And there's a song that talks about hold on or something like that, where in the song it's like the man was telling the woman, oh, I want you to wait, wait for me. And she just moved on, basically. Moved on, left him hanging, because she wasn't sure, like, what was that time period?
Yeah, you got to be able to feel it out, though. Sometimes you can have a little foolery going on, and you got to know when to make the right decisions about moving forward.
Right. Because who wants to hold forever, right? So I think we want to ask the audience the question. Hopefully there's some people out there that will want to answer. It's like, when is the longest time you had love on hold? Ooh, that's a serious question, right? I think you and I were talking earlier about sometimes people have love on hold and it's not intentional.
Right. Mhm.
Right? It's
Yeah,
because
you're just trying to you waiting on somebody to notice you and just kind of, when we think about people in our community,
Mhm.
like sister's been, I literally can talk to somebody and they may be single for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like what, And I think to a certain extent, after a while, I kind of get numb to it. It's like, oh well, somebody may approach me or find me. And then that's the other question. It's like, are you approachable, or do you have somebody in place who can approach someone else? Like,
Mhm.
how does it really work? And a lot of times for us, that's where the question lies. Like, is it really love that's on hold, or is it something else?
Right.
Are we, what is it that we're looking for?
Right.
Why is it not coming? And then we can kind of start looking at ourselves in a way where you know how we look, just everything. We start to look at, like, we want to just keep everything all right and tight and in place, where
Right. Right.
be ready to receive, but yeah, but there's definitely, sisters out there where it's been a long time, so it's
Mhm. It
like,
is.
what's happening with that,
What
you know
is happening with that?
Are
And then when you put on, I guess another aspect of it is like when you put someone on hold because of, like you're dating or you're trying to look at a list of people. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was gonna say.
yeah, never. I haven't had that experience where it's like a long list of people and I'm having to sort through the list and figure out who has the better qualities. But some people do experience that, and having that list, I know that for men, it's a little bit different, but for women, sometimes it's like, women aren't going to be talking to like 4 or 5 different guys.
Yeah, you can't even pull yourself all these different directions. It's kind of like unheard of,
Yeah,
Now,
I'm
I
not going
do
to do
know,
that.
like, on the dating sites, we have, of course, there's many, many dating sites, and even as Muslims, there's some sites out there for you to be able to meet people all
Right.
over. And so
Hmm.
in there, I'm sure that, they probably go down and look at, these people and see, how this conversation's going, and okay, well, let me try this one. Let's see
Right.
how that's working. And if it
Right.
don't work, then okay, well, let me try that one over there. But it's like, once, for a woman, I think once you kind of start to get engaged with, let's just say, online,
Hmm.
maybe you might be trying to find out what's happening with 2 people, but your list is not going to get real long,
It's not
But
going to
but
get
you can
real.
find some people out there, maybe the brothers.
And when the list gets long, it's almost like sometimes you can't remember who has what qualities
Oh
because
gosh.
you talk to so many people, right? And then like this person might have the qualities, but then you think it's this person. And not that you're just oblivious to it, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can get very, very comfortable thinking that, or because you are talking to different people, you're being satisfied, but it's because you're talking to different people, not because
Mhm.
you have one person that can actually fulfill all of those uh, qualities that you're looking for in a relationship. So that's another reason to put love on hold, honey. when
So
you
what so, so what happens when you, like, let's just say for a sister, like, she's being approached. We're talking about online right now. She's been approached by 2 brothers, and she's carrying on conversation, and between the both of them. But then it's like, okay, once you get, it's like a threshold somewhere, where it's
somewhere,
like, once you get past a certain point, it's like, okay, we're gonna drop this one and I'm gonna focus on this one here.
I
But
hope
then if
so.
things don't work out, I know. If things don't work out, then she might be like, okay, well, let me go look up brother so and so again. And then he might be in a position where he's like, oh, he done moved on,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Once they move on, do you watch the TV show Love Is Blind?
I have seen that. I have
Okay,
seen that.
so they have
Mhm.
like a new episode. I love that show. I just, I'm into sociology. So those types of shows always, not all of them, but this one in particular. So there's like a couple on there, a black couple, um, and spoiler alert, spoiler alert. There's a couple on there where, the guy had actually asked somebody else to marry him and she said no. And
Oh.
so he had 2 girls that he was talking to, like, in the pods, so he went back and then asked the 2nd girl to marry him,
Mhm.
and, she was like, "Am I, like, 2nd?" And I'm like, second dibs, right?
That was a turn off right there,
That was
huh?
a trap, but he was just like, "No, no, no, he's just," he was really trying to, like, convince her that she was the one,
Mhm.
and, through the they talked for a little bit, so basically, they, like, go through these pods for, like, 6 weeks, get to know each other just on an emotional level, like, you don't get to see
Mhm.
them or anything. So, you don't get to see them until you're actually engaged, right? So, if you're engaged, then you finally get to see the person, and you know how that can go, right? So you finally see the person, and then I guess it's maybe like 2 to 4 weeks. Yes, 4 weeks, and then you get married. But during the
Mhm.
4 weeks up leading up to the marriage, you really have to like get to know each other. And she just kept asking like, "Am I still the second? Am I just like the second choice?" But
Mhm.
spoiler alert, they did end up getting married, but even still. And so like now it's like
Mhm.
really trying to figure out like what's going to happen in the dynamic of the relationship, and
Mhm.
like some of the people who didn't get married, who you thought were going to get married, like what's going to happen with them. And one person, she was just like, I just can't do it right now. I still love this person. I just want to put it on hold and on pause right now. And really, 2 or 3 couples said that, but it'd be interesting to go back and see, or it'd be interesting in the future to see who actually goes back and gets back together. Because sometimes for me, one guy was just like, she said no, this has hurt my feelings. I'm not going to be available for her when she comes back around. It was like, you say you love this woman. What you talking
Mhm.
about?
It might have been different if she came back around and said yes. He'd be like, okay.
Right, exactly, exactly. So he's like, now I feel some kind of way. He's like, but you just said that was your best friend and you love her.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like you just cussed her out the night before. That's why she has that's why she
Ooh,
has questions, right? So she was
ooh.
just like, it was the worst fight ever. So she was just like, I gotta take a step back. And it was
Mhm.
okay if they take a step back. And like in real life, without all the cameras and everything, things might work out, but you just never know.
Mhm. So, what about when love is on hold because you actually just don't want a man right now? Or you
Oh
actually
yeah.
just don't want to have a woman? Like you just got some things that you want to work on and you're just not
Mhm.
interested. You don't want, what about when love is on hold like that? How long is a good time to have it on hold?
Oh man.
For me, I don't know if I've ever really necessarily had love on hold, but I know that
I know
I've
I
had
haven't.
I've had long I've had long periods of, between my first and second marriages, between 6, 7 years where I was single, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't necessarily say that it was on hold because at a certain point in the beginning, it was like, I don't even want to see a man, but as time goes by, you do want to, meet people. And then it's a matter of meeting someone and meeting the right person. So you have
Right,
to kind of
right.
filter things out. But what about the person who just really just don't want to get
Well,
involved because I just want to do me?
right. Well, this whole topic came from someone who was
Yeah.
in that same position that was
Yeah.
formerly that miss. So this came from one of our hosts, our queens, this topic. And her thing was like, I'm not thinking about no man right now. It's all about
Mhm.
the money. I'm trying to get my money up. I'm focused on me. I'm trying to focus on the future. I want to buy me a house. She was just focused on and we
Mhm.
kept laughing and joking about it because we kept saying, yeah, as soon as you don't pay attention to it, it's gonna come around.
Just
And
pop right up.
it popped right
What
up, right?
happened?
So that's what she's doing right now, getting
Not expecting that.
because love is no longer on hold, honey. Love is on the speed trail. Okay. So it's going in a quick turn.
Yes.
But alhamdulillah, so excited for her for that. And then
Mhm.
also when love is on hold, it's like sometimes it's not on hold, but you're in a long distance relationship, like super
Mhm.
long distance. And so, really having to navigate emotionally, physically, spiritually, while your partner isn't with you in
Mhm.
in the same space and in the same presence. You can see each other on FaceTime or whatever, but how do you navigate that? Because I
Mhm.
I don't even know, girl. I don't even know if I could do that.
So would that really be love on hold? That just made me think about like say when you're married and you have a long distance relationship.
Right,
I was
right.
talking to a young lady today and her daughter is in the Marines,
Mm-hmm.
and her daughter's married to a Marine. And
Ah.
he's somewhere different, she's somewhere different, and then by the time he gets back, she'll be leaving, but then he'll get to take a little vacation, so he'll just go where she is. Now imagine that. So it's
Oh,
not quite love on hold, but you gotta put a lot of stuff on hold when you're not
some stuff
around
is
each
on
other like
hold.
in regular
Right.
days. Yeah. So you
Right.
get to talk on the phone, you get to FaceTime, text, and call to a certain extent, especially being in the military,
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother dynamic there.
That's a whole nother dynamic. And you know what? Here in America, it's just kind of like different. Like we're so focused on like romantic type relationships. So,
Mhm.
being around each other, being physical with each other, being intimate and, holding hands and things like that is so premium. But in
Mhm.
other countries, it's not really like that. And
Yeah.
so, people can be away from each other I watched this one movie. It was about an African couple where the husband and wife they were married for like 30 years, but they were apart 20 years. And they
Oh
were
my.
finally getting ready to see each other. And it was like they hadn't seen each other in 20 years. And they were like still like in love and wanting to be around each other. I was like, what is that? But
That
again, it's based
wow.
on upbringing and
Mhm.
and how you process relationships and how you process in your mind. They talked on the phone regularly. So it's just, man, it's a whole bunch of dynamics out there.
Mhm. 20 years?
20
I'm
years.
like, wow.
Right.
That's a lot. Now, that like you said, in other parts of the world, because I don't see that happening here in America.
Well, he had came to America. And she
Oh,
was still in Africa and her daughter was with her. So like by the time he saw his child, she
child was
was
grown
an
up.
adult. She was 20
So
years old.
so he might have been here working,
He
sending money
was.
back home. So he was like, that's a lot. But
It's a lot, and when she came home, she was surprised when she came to America.
oh, okay.
She was surprised.
What kind of surprise did she get?
Yeah, a neighborly surprise. Because again, you have to know your own self and your
Yeah.
own, criteria as to what is a relationship. It's hard to be in a relationship without being with someone, in their presence physically.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know
You
if you
know
heard that.
when you're talking about distance, what came to my mind, was, from another perspective, when you think about people who are together, been in a relationship, and something happens where one of them have to be incarcerated for
Mm,
whatever reason, and so in trying to
mhm,
make the decision whether you're gonna stay with this person, see them through
mhm.
it, because maybe they might have a short term, 3, 5, 10 years, 10 years is a
Right.
long time, but
Years on.
but you have people who actually, they're there for their partner and they see them through, and you writing the letters and driving the highway to go see them, and
Yeah,
just being there for them until they get out, and so love is on hold somewhat in that
it
situation.
is. It
Everybody's
is.
waiting, they're waiting for that person to come
Mhm.
back home.
Those are peculiar situations. We should call that peculiar love.
Hmm. Hmm.
Peculiar love on hold. That's what that is. And then, um, thinking about like, how I know sometimes people were like, oh, we just need to take a break. And this is something that really older couples, like our grandparents used to kind of do. They wouldn't say it that way, but next thing you
they,
know,
they was
Papa has
taking
a house across on the other side of town that he goes and hangs out at just because he needs his own space. And grandma's okay with that because they just need their own space. And that goes back to what we were talking about last week when we were talking about making your love story work for you.
yes.
But yeah, I think now when people use those terms of like, hey, I need my own space, they always think of it as terminating the relationship, but that doesn't
Mhm.
have to be that way. It can still be, sometimes people do need space.
Yes. Yeah, I was just talking about that same thing the other day. Because it's important for you to be able to go to the mountaintop when you need to. Everybody got to have that time. Everybody have to have that time, and sometimes it might just be a day.
Yeah.
It could
Mhm.
be a week.
Yep. Yep.
And sometimes it may need to be a little bit longer. But just because you separate and have a difference in where you're laying your head, like you
Mhm.
said, it doesn't mean it's the end.
Right.
And then, we've heard the expression of, absence make the heart grow fonder. So it's
Yeah.
like, you really start to think about your mate and all those good qualities that, made you gravitate to them in the first place. And it's like,
Right.
okay, what is this?
Right.
do I, what do I need to do so I can fight to keep this thing moving?
Right.
So I think that that's definitely something that is, it's the old school thing, like you said, because I've heard that,
Yeah.
but maybe people might need to implement that more versus making a decision, because we know that divorce rate is definitely higher than it was years ago. It's
Yeah.
like talking about staying in it to win it.
Right. Yeah, and thinking about like when you're thinking about relationships, how your imagination plays a crucial role.
Mhm.
And we just have like this innate desire to always think past and beyond our current circumstances. And that's another like when love is over, think that they have all of these options. And oftentimes, sometimes people are like looking for people to have like all of these qualities that they themselves don't have.
Mhm.
And so what happens is people kind of start to begin to live in this like nostalgic type
Mhm.
mentality. It's like it's the nostalgia of wanting to be in a specific type of relationship, but
Mhm.
it's really not realistic. And those type of relationships sometimes may not even come into fruition. you know?
Yeah. So postponing relationships.
Mm,
Have you ever had to postpone a relationship?
never.
Putting love on hold that way?
I've never had to do any of this stuff. That's why it's like this is a little strange. We
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
continuing to have this topic, but yeah, never had to do that, and not just you know, not just be like, oh, I just haven't I haven't ever had time like that, and
Mhm.
so looking just at my life in general, yeah, I've been married my whole almost adult life since I was 21, so yeah, no time. I haven't ever thought
Mhm.
about any of this kind of stuff, so it's
Mhm.
really interesting to
Mhm.
even think about it from the perspective. I know that we were on a vacation and they were just talking about like the relationships in that specific country, right? And how they were developed and formulated and things like that.
Mhm.
And one person that was on the trip with us, she was older, and so she hadn't been married in like 15 years. So I was like, okay, so I'm just curious, like, why are you not married and like, what are you waiting for? And she's
You
like,
said like 20 years?
yeah, almost 15.
Mm.
She's just like, telling about like what she's looking for. And, one of them is just like, she's just like, I'm looking for somebody kind. She's like, it's a lot of mean old men out there. And I was like, okay. So, just having these specific, again, characteristics and things that you want, just being realistic about it. Like, is that really going to show up for you? And sometimes, again, we kind of get in this nostalgic mindset where, you know, it's not going to show up that way. And so
Mhm.
we have to, I think, sometimes be a little bit understanding and, be a little like, okay, I'm going to pull back on this because it may not show up 100% the way that I want it to, but it can still
Mhm.
work out. Mhm.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about is, when love is moving along, right?
Mhm.
And you have this person, you're not in a relationship yet, but you got a person that every time something happens, you think of them first.
Yeah.
Like when you think of them when you're in the middle of a crisis or whatever's going on, it's like, maybe sometimes we kind of overlook what might be sitting right in our face and not know
Right.
that this is that person that, that you're really, really best friends with. It's like, and it's good sometimes to be friends first before you
Yeah.
fall in love with someone or,
Right.
begin to grow and develop, that thing. Cause sometimes, you got friends and they like always talk about who they're talking to, who they're with, getting advice from that person. And, they finally look up and like, we've been talking to 3, 4 different people and we've always been right in each other's face.
Right.
That's another kind of form of, like, in a way, love being on hold for them because they're not really recognizing what's right
Mhm.
there.
Mhm. And that's interesting because even in Islam, we really don't have those type of relationships, like
Mhm.
where, you're talking to, guys, or like the women are, the men are talking to a lot of girls. So it's interesting how even in the construct of Islam, there, during the time of the prophet, peace be upon him, you know, there were men who, like, when people came to Medina and they needed wives, they were like, "Oh, yeah, hey, you can have my wife." And so they gave their wives to the men who ended up coming into this. Is just like, I don't have to have love on hold, and so you don't have to have it
Mhm.
on hold either. Let me let you have
Love for your brother what you love for yourself, right?
But it's just really interesting. And then just how, again, how they transitioned, from city to city, person to person. I know when somebody had said something before, like, it's almost like everybody in the community been married to each other. It's like, well, I mean, it just kind of depends how big the community is and like
Mhm.
how many people are there. But yeah, transitioning through those things and those phases also is sometimes why love is on hold. It's like, well, I don't want to marry brother so and so because five of my friends have married him and it didn't work out, or I don't want to marry sister so and so because three of their friends have married. Just kind of those
But
weird and
listen to those
peculiar.
numbers though. Listen to those numbers.
No,
5 marriages, 3 marriages,
yeah,
and I know things, these days they just turn over a little bit. What do you call it when you when the job they're constantly hiring employees?
oh, the turnover
Turn
rate.
turnover.
Turnover rate, right? The love turnover rate.
I mean, naturally, you kind of start looking at somebody that's been married, like, I've been married 3 times, and
Right.
so the second one, I don't halfway count that one, but kind of forget about that one. It's a real short
Right.
period of time. But and look, now I forgot what I was
I
saying.
knew it. That's how it just slipped right out of you. But what you wanted to say was the time period, how many times you've been married, and how often it isn't as often for some people, but for some people, it's been
Right.
a lot. It's been a lot.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
And then
that
what
is
happens too is
also,
like, you have to kind of look at the common denominator. Even though
yeah, exactly.
sometimes you can get married, and even if it's not you, it's like you are attracting to certain type
The
of things.
same
And you have
person.
to be able to recognize what that is so that you can run away from it next time.
Right, and that's when you really need to put love on hold to get yourself together,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
and not be afraid to be alone, and not be afraid to process, and not be afraid
Yes.
to really acknowledge, your faults and
And
your
healing time is important.
yes, all of
Mhm.
that stuff. And, jumping right back into the saddle the next time doesn't necessarily mean that you have processed information. So just understanding yourself. I know I did a post today that was talking about, love and know yourself more than you love and know anybody else.
Mhm.
And we know that that's relative in terms of, God is first. But yeah, if you don't love yourself and know yourself, how can you love and know somebody else? That don't make any
Right.
sense.
Right.
So
Right.
that's when love needs to be on hold. And sometimes, people just don't want to be mature enough to accept that they have challenges and that they, need to work some things out. They just want like, no, I'm good. I'm good. It's not me. It's the other person. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you may want to look in that mirror.
So when you have someone who is coming out of a relationship
Hmm.
and they just want to give it some time, like we said, you need to kind of go through that healing process. How long do you think it should be between, how long should one give themselves time? Because we know that for men move a little bit, tend to move a little bit faster than women do.
Hmm.
As far as, even if they lose their spouse, or
Right.
they end a relationship, meaning lose their spouse through they might pass away, or they
Right.
may, the relationship just didn't work out. Sometimes
Hmm.
we find that men kind of, get back
Move
on.
on.
What
They
you
get
say?
back in the saddle. They get
You
back in
know,
the saddle.
a little bit quicker than women. And so, but we both need to have that healing time, that processing time. So I think that's definitely a time when you want to have love on hold,
Yeah.
to be able to center yourself and
Mhm.
reflect on, your needs, and increasing yourself in various areas, that because it's like how are you going to be in a relationship into these
Right.
things when you're not, goes
And
back
we're
to
just
that.
going,
Put your
yeah,
mask on first.
right. And really going back to like focusing on your relationship with your Lord. It's like
Mhm.
at the end of the day,
That's
like,
the ground. That's the foundation there.
what is that? Like, what is your relationship with your Lord? Because sometimes
Mhm,
people be in relationships and they think that their partner is like their whole world, and they forget about their relationship with their Lord.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that's important as well. So like, I think the more you begin to focus on God and your relationship and your spirituality, that's also sometimes when love shows up,
mhm.
because you put everything in its right order.
Now, what about when you have those that wanna hurry up on love, It's like you can't hurry love, right?
You
You
can't
just
hurry
gotta wait
love.
a little bit.
The Supremes.
Yes.
You just have to wait.
You just
They
have to
say
wait.
love ain't gonna be easy. It's a game of give and take.
Can't hurry love, no,
Okay.
you just have to wait, they say.
Yeah,
What, love don't come easy.
it don't come
It's a game of
easy.
give and take. Yes, it is.
It is. It is, right. And so when you were asking earlier about like how much time, I have no clue. Again, everybody is so
It's
different.
different.
And
Mhm,
just really, people really have to, again, know yourself. Like if you don't
mhm,
know yourself, how do you know if I think the new phase that we're kind of going in is like everybody's like, somewhat getting themselves together, going through all these classes, maybe,
mhm,
dealing with childhood trauma, and which
mhm.
is real. People need to stop
Yes.
acting like it's not real. And how, people really,
Mm,
how their relationships are now is as a result of what they've seen, what they grew up under. And if they
mhm,
want a relationship to change, they have to begin to like really focus on that. But in doing so, how many people really want to admit that they have these ills or these challenges? And
mhm,
oftentimes people don't want to do that. No one says, "Oh, I was the reason that my marriage broke up." Who says that?
mm,
You know
mm,
what I'm saying? So taking accountability is a very mature move. And
mhm.
being accountable means that you have to admit your mistakes and be able to move on. And until you do that, that's why people keep picking the same person in a different body.
And sometimes people in the end, even if they don't see it at first, by the time they go through a little bit of that process, they can recognize, okay, this is what I did. This is
Right.
how I should have done. And this is, they can kind of see areas of improvement to work
Right.
on themselves so that they don't, go in making the same mistake
Mhm.
again.
Yeah. And hopefully they won't keep making the
Yeah,
same mistake.
right, right. And then the other thing is like us just being patient with one another,
Yeah. Mhm.
as we kind of go through the process of love.
Live in the patience and understanding what marriage is all about, right? Just it's not just all about the lovey-dovey and
Mhm,
the, you know, oh, we have the same bank account. I think that people forget that love is like marriage is actually a plan, and that there
like
are
a mission.
actions that have to be taken in order to make sure that it's successful. It's
Mhm,
not just, oh, we're together and we do stuff, and it's like, what's the plan for the marriage? Like, what
mhm.
are the goals y'all are gonna have together? And
Right.
it can't just be like one person making all the goals for everybody. No, it's like you have independent goals, um, and then making sure those independent goals match up with your goals together that you want for your family and yourself,
Mhm.
and really laying that foundation. That's very, very important.
All right. So we're gonna get ready to wrap up. What did
Wrap it
we
on
get?
up, honey.
Did we get any? We got any questions we need to answer or get any feedback?
We didn't get any questions or feedback, but of course, people can always put something in the chat even after this goes live and
Mhm.
or is recorded onto our Facebook and YouTube channel. And next week is So You Think You're Ready for Marriage. And this is a online game
Mhm.
for young people. So we're
Gonna be
asking
fun.
at least 4 young people to come forward, 2 males and 2 females to come forward. We have these awesome questions that we want to ask them to see
Mhm.
if you think that you are ready for marriage. Even if you're not, just come on anyway. So encouraging
It'll be
everyone,
fun.
right, to have their young people come out. We'll be doing it again, trying to get 4 young people to come on the stream with us live, but if not, of course, asking people to have them come out and basically post comments when we ask these questions. And guess what? Some of these adults may need to be asking these questions, answering the questions too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and something else
Or
to
if you're married, still join us.
that's right. If you're married, still join us. And something else to note is that we do have a book club this season. We talked about it last week, but our book club, I believe, what's the first book we're talking about? You Can Be the Happiest Woman in the World is one
Mm-hmm.
book that we'll be discussing this year, and that has a lot to do with us going into Ramadan. So thinking about if you have that book, find it. We'll try to put it on our Facebook page. It'll be a list of all of the books. We also are going to be talking about We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers.
Mhm.
That book is a life changer. Okay, so if you don't have that book, definitely get that. We'll also be talking about The Body Keeps the Score, and this is about
Mhm.
mental illness and trauma and how people think that they're healed, but like you can say a word and literally the body will react based on the trauma that it's experienced previously.
Yes.
Smells can cause the body to go into trauma, so that's a great book. If you don't want to read the book online, it is on Audible. It is an awesome listen as well. And then I think the final book that we have is actually one coming up in 2 weeks. So we have one more book coming up in 2 weeks, but we definitely want you all to get those books so you all be ready for our book club so we can discuss them thoroughly.
Now, just so they can maybe, in case we went a little fast, we're gonna say the name of the book again in case you want to get your book so you can start reading. So You Can Be the Happiest Woman in the World. So that's one of them. That's the first one. Look that one up. We're going to be talking about that one on the 3rd of April. That's episode 6. So look forward to that. And then We Should All Be Millionaires. Naima's going to tell us all about that book. She's been in and
Yes.
out. Yeah, so that's going to be toward the end of April. Really excited about hearing about that. We all want to make them millions and even more.
Yes.
And then The Body Keeps the Score. We're going to be doing that one sometime in May. But go ahead and get your books and start reading them bit by bit. I need to get a couple of these books myself. So I'll definitely look forward to it.
Yes. And I don't know if You Should Be the Happiest Woman in the World is on Audible, but I know the other two are. So if you don't want to actually read it, you just want to listen to it. And of course, We Should All Be Millionaires is actually read by the author, Rachel Rodgers. So something to think about. And again, we are so happy that you all joined us today for When Love is on Hold. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and tell all your friends and family about Rock the Crown. So until next week, we will see you.
Peace.
Peace.
Have a good night.
And the pizza is coming soon. Just want to let you all know. We'll see you all. Peace out.